The wind howled like a wounded animal as Marcus trudged through the knee-deep snow toward his isolated cabin. Another brutal winter evening in the Montana wilderness, the kind that made a man question why he'd chosen to live so far from civilization. But Marcus knew why. After losing his wife Sarah 3 years ago, the solitude had become his only companion, his only comfort. He was almost at his door when he heard it. A sound so faint he almost mistook it for the wind. A whimper, or perhaps a cry. Marcus stopped, his breath forming clouds in the frigid air. There it was again. His heart began to race as he turned toward his neighbor's property, about a quarter mile down the mountain road. Old Gerald Thompson's place had been dark for weeks now. The cantankerous old man had mentioned something about getting a mail-order bride before he left for his sister's funeral in Idaho, but Marcus had thought it was just another one of Gerald's tall tales. Following the sound, Marcus spotted a dark shape huddled against Gerald's cabin door. As he got closer, his blood ran cold. It was a woman, curled into herself, her lips blue, her body shaking violently. She wore nothing but a thin dress completely inadequate for the blizzard, and her long dark hair was caked with ice and snow. "Jesus Christ," Marcus breathed, immediately shrugging off his heavy coat and wrapping it around her. "Can you hear me? Can you stand?" The woman's eyes fluttered open, deep brown eyes filled with fear and confusion. She tried to speak, but her teeth chattered so violently that no words came out. Without hesitation, Marcus scooped her into his arms. She weighed almost nothing, and he could feel how dangerously cold her skin was even through his gloves. He ran as fast as the snow would allow back to his cabin, kicking the door open and bringing her directly to the fireplace. He'd kept the fire roaring all day, thank God. Marcus laid her on the thick rug in front of the hearth and began working quickly. He'd been a paramedic before moving to the mountains, and his training kicked in immediately. Hypothermia. Severe, by the looks of it. He needed to warm her gradually, get her out of those wet clothes, and pray she didn't have frostbite. Marcus grabbed every blanket he owned, then hesitated. Her dress was soaked through, frozen in places. Leaving her in wet clothes could kill her. "I'm sorry," he said softly, even though she seemed barely conscious. "I have to get you out of these clothes. You will die if you don't." Working as clinically as possible, Marcus removed the frozen dress and undergarments, averting his eyes as much as he could while wrapping her in dry blankets. He made hot water bottles from his kettle, placing them carefully under the blankets near her core. Then he prepared warm, not hot, sweet tea, the kind his grandmother had always made for shock. For the next hour, Marcus worked tirelessly, monitoring her breathing, her pulse, slowly bringing warmth back to her body. Finally, her shaking began to subside, and her eyes opened more clearly. Where is Gerald?" Her voice was heavily accented, Russian maybe, or Ukrainian. "He was supposed to be here. The agency said he would be here." Marcus's jaw tightened. Gerald's been gone for 3 weeks. He went to Idaho for his sister's funeral. "When did you arrive?" 3 days ago," she whispered, tears forming in her eyes. "I came to the address. The door was locked. I waited, thinking he would come. I had no money, no phone. The taxi driver left me there and drove away. I knocked on the door, I called, but no one came. I tried to walk down the mountain, but the storm came. I got lost. I came back to the house. I thought if I waited, someone would come. 3 days. This woman had been stranded for 3 days in the freezing cold, with no food, no warmth, probably drinking melted snow to survive. Rage burned in Marcus's chest. Rage at Gerald for being so irresponsible, at the agency for not ensuring someone would be there, at the whole situation that had left this vulnerable woman to nearly freeze to death. "What is your name?" Marcus asked gently. "Katya. Katya Volkov." "I'm Marcus. Marcus Reed. You're safe now, Katya. I promise you're safe." Over the next few days, Marcus cared for Katya as she recovered. She'd been lucky. No frostbite, just severe hypothermia and exhaustion. As she regained her strength, her story emerged in pieces. She was from a small village in Ukraine, where her family had been killed in the conflict. She'd been living in a refugee camp in Poland when she'd seen the mail-order bride advertisement. Gerald had seemed kind in his letters, promised her a home, a chance at a new life. She'd sold everything she had left to pay her fees to the agency. "I was desperate," she admitted one evening as they sat by the fire. Marcus had insisted she sleep in his bedroom while he took the couch. In the camp, there was no future. "Just waiting, always waiting. Gerald promised me a home, maybe even love someday. I did not expect romance, you understand. Just safety. A chance to build a life." "You deserve more than just safety," Marcus found himself saying. "You deserve to be treated with respect. With kindness." Katya looked at him with those deep brown eyes, and something stirred in Marcus's chest that he hadn't felt in 3 years. He pushed it down. This woman had been through enough. The last thing she needed was another man complicating her life. When the roads finally cleared after a week, Marcus drove to town and made some calls. Gerald, it turned out, was still in Idaho. His sister had taken a turn for the worse, and he didn't know when he'd be back. When Marcus told him about Katya, Gerald's response was casual, almost dismissive. "Oh yeah, debride. Look, I'll send some money for her keep. Just hold on to her until I get back. Will you, Marcus? Hold on to her. Like she was a package." Marcus hung up the phone feeling sick. He returned to the cabin to find Katya cooking. She'd been insisting on helping around the house, despite his protests that she should rest. The smell of something delicious filled the cabin. "Borscht," she explained with a shy smile. "My grandmother's recipe. I found vegetable signor cellar. I hope you do not mind." They ate together, and for the first time since Sarah's death, Marcus's cabin felt like a home instead of just a shelter. Katya told him about her childhood, about her grandmother who raised her, about the dreams she'd had before the war destroyed everything. Marcus found himself sharing too, about Sarah, about the life they'd planned, about how he'd run away to the mountains because he couldn't face a world without her. "But you did not die with her," Katya said softly. "You are still here. Still living. Maybe she would want you to do more than just survive, yes." Weeks passed. Gerald called occasionally, always with excuses about why he couldn't return yet. Marcus began to suspect the old man had cold feet about the whole arrangement. Meanwhile, Katya had transformed the cabin. She cleaned and organized, cooked meals that made Marcus remember what it was like to look forward to dinner. She tended a small herb garden on the windowsill, read books from his collection, and in the evenings, they would sit by the fire and talk for hours. Marcus found himself falling for her, not just for her beauty, but for her strength, her resilience, her gentle humor despite everything she'd endured. The way she hummed while cooking, the way she laughed at his terrible jokes, the way she looked at the mountains with wonder instead of seeing them as a prison the way he had. But he held back. She was technically Gerald's bride. She'd come here for Gerald, had made an agreement. What right did he have to interfere? It was Katya who finally brought it up, 2 months after that night in the blizzard. "Marcus, I need to talk to you." They sat by the fire, as had become their custom. Katya twisted her hands nervously. "Gerald called me today while you were chopping wood. He is coming back next week." Marcus's heart sank, though he tried not to show it. That's good. That's what you came here for. Is it?" Katya looked at him directly. "Marcus, I have been here 2 months. Gerald has called me 3 times. He treats me like an inconvenience, like a possession he ordered and forgot about. You." She paused, her voice breaking slightly. "You saved my life. You have treated me with kindness and respect. You have made me feel human again, not just a refugee, not just a transaction. When I think about my future, I do not see Gerald's face. I see yours." Marcus's breath caught. "Katya, Let me finish," she said, holding up her hand. "I know you still love your wife. I am not asking you to forget her or replace her. But I think maybe she would not want you to be alone forever. And I think maybe I do not have to marry a man who treats me like a package he ordered from a catalog." "What are you saying?" I am saying that the agency contract requires only that Gerald provide me with housing and a path to citizenship. It does not require that I marry him. I could leave, find another way. She looked down at her hands. But I do not want to leave. I want to stay here. With you. If you will have me. Marcus felt tears in his eyes for the first time since Sarah's funeral. He reached out and took Katya's hand. I've been falling in love with you, he admitted. Every day, a little more. But I didn't think I had the right. You have the right to be happy, Katya interrupted. We both do. When Gerald finally returned, Marcus met him at his cabin. The old man looked older, more worn than when he'd left. Look, Marcus, I'm going to level with you, Gerald said. I'm too old for this. The idea seemed good when I was lonely, but the truth is, I can't handle a young wife. And my sister needs me in Idaho. I'm moving there. What about Katya? Gerald shrugged. The agency can find her another match. Or she can go back. I'll pay her return fees. She's not going back, Marcus said firmly. She's staying here. With me. Gerald raised an eyebrow, then a slow smile spread across his face. Well, I'll be damned. You too. Yes. Me and Katya. I'll reimburse whatever you paid to the agency. I'll handle her legal status. Help her get citizenship. She deserves a real chance at life, not to be shuffled around like a commodity. You love her, Gerald said. It wasn't a question. Ido. Gerald clapped him on the shoulder. Then she's yours, son. Don't need any money. Just be good to her. Better than I would have been. That evening, Marcus and Katya stood on his porch, watching the sunset paint the mountains pink and gold. The same mountains that had been his prison were now their sanctuary. I found you freezing in a blizzard, Marcus said, pulling her close. And you brought warmth back into my life. Katya smiled up at him. Then we saved each other. 6 months later, they were married in a small ceremony in town. As Marcus slipped the ring on Katya's finger, he felt Sarah's presence like a warm breeze, a gentle blessing. He wasn't replacing her. He was allowing himself to live again, to love again. The mail-order bride who nearly died in the snow had found her home. And the broken man who saved her had found his reason to heal. Together, in that isolated cabin on the mountain, they built a new life from the ashes of their old ones. A life filled with love, laughter, and the kind of happiness that can only come from surviving the storm together.